Go.
Okay, so usually what happens when you eat food goes into your system and you will release insulin. Insulin opens up the cells. You're using energy in your cells. Most people have what's called insulin resistance. They have so much insulin going on all the time that you no longer have these little receptors working, so the sugars aren't getting into the cells and they're just coming out here. You got to store them into fat. The body doesn't like having high blood sugars. When you work out, you will burn a lot of this sugar, and you also pull from fat. That's what exercise is good for. What happens when people want to lose more fat, a quicker way, they can try what's called a ketogenic diet. And ketogenic means you're going really high fat, like 70% of your calories is fat, and extremely low in carbohydrate. Okay? So what's going to happen is you no longer have sugars to use for energy for these cells, which, by the way, your brain uses sugars. Okay? If it doesn't have sugars, you're going to have to make an alternative fuel. So what your body does is it goes to your fat, pulls it through your liver, and then your liver will make what's called ketones. And ketones can be used by your brain. So what happens is you can now continue to keep pulling from fat without having a lot of blood sugars. What you don't want to do, though, if you're doing a ketogenic diet, is eat too much protein, because the protein can also be converted into sugar. So you want to do like moderate protein, like 20%, really low carbohydrate, like 5% of your calories, and then a lot of fat. Now what ketones do, exogenous ketones, now normally what you're doing is making your own. They're called endogenous, okay? Exogenous means you're skipping all this. You're just taking in the ketones, and that becomes a fuel source for your brain, and you can also use it for energy in your cells, okay? It's not going to pull from your fat. It's not going to make you pull from fat. The only way you're going to do that is if you pay attention to your diet, okay? But if you don't have those sugars there, your body's naturally going to need to pull from your body fat. So when you're delivering this to your body, it will give you this feeling of high energy. It's also going to go into your brain. Every cell has these little powerhouses called mitochondria. It actually creates more mitochondria, so you actually get more energy made within your cells. So you might feel like, wow, I'm thinking really clearly, my brain's working really well, and it also helps with reducing a lot of inflammation. So people's inflammation will go away, their aches and pains, migraines can go away. And what happens is if you keep doing this, the ketones have what we call basically like an appetite suppressant kind of effect. So you don't feel like eating as much. So typically people, when they eat, they'll eat something, the blood sugars spike up and it comes down, and then they get hungry. This will go kind of like this, and you don't really get hungry until you really are hungry. And then you go eat something. So your blood sugars stay more stable. That will reduce insulin resistance. We just talked about insulin resistance. So you actually restore your insulin receptors. You can burn energy more efficiently, and that will help you pull from fat as well.
Jen, bridges.
Okay? So you need to pay attention to your diet while you do it. The only thing you gotta pay attention to is the actual change. All these ketones will cause a little bit of an ion shift in your body, so your electrolytes can get depleted. It's gonna pull out sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. So you're gonna be urinating a little bit more. Ketones are very acidic. You're going to be excreting them. You can test your ketones, just you're taking them and you're peeing them out.
Is that why I pee every hour? That would make sense.
Yeah. So you'll
hour.
urinate more, you need to hydrate a heck of a lot more than you think you do now, especially in the winter. It's hard for people to remember that. If you start having migraines, muscle aches or cramping, heart palpitations, things like that, that's a sign that your potassium is probably tanked out, magnesium might be crapped out. If you have anybody that has risk of kidney stones, you gotta be careful because you're excreting a lot more calcium, and there are people who have a hard time reboxing that calcium so it gets excreted well, okay? So you're just giving your brain an alternate source, and it's gonna help us, you know, like I said, appetite comes down, you're not gonna feel as hungry, you can control your food a lot more with that. So a lot of people will start to lose weight because they're not taking in as much food anymore. Winning!
Yeah.
But it's not gonna automatically go over here and pull out your fat. It doesn't do that. You still wanna—
That's what I was trying to ask you on Facebook last night. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't understand. Now that makes perfect sense.
And some people, like endurance runners and things like that, love it because when they're going for long distances and they're running out of their glycogen stores, they typically will have to pull from their protein. Their liver is trying to make a bunch of blood sugar for them, and they have to use fat too, and sometimes their body isn't adapted to that, so it's very difficult. So they'll take the ketones because it helps them have that quick energy surge. They feel like they can go longer. Same thing will happen in here. If you're taking them, you might feel like you can get through your workout a little bit easier because now you have this little extra boost of energy. Does that make sense?
That's great, Heather.
Okay, cool.